So the next thing that we got coming up here in our program says we have the toast. Now, this is a tradition at every Burn supper. There's always the toast to the lasses, and then there's usually a reply. So I'm going to introduce our man who's going to do the toast to the lasses. This is Nino King. Nino King.
I'm reminded of a Robert Burns story that I heard where Robert walked into a pub, reached down between his legs and loudly proclaimed, "Aye! There's a steering wheel in me pants and it's driving me nuts!" Okay. Oh! Yeah, he gets worse than that. Ladies and gents, lads and lassies, I am very honored to stand before you tonight to speak at your annual Burns Supper Soiree. There are some lassies here that I'd like to point out have done some very hard work getting this event together, like Susan Craig Boothberg, Denise Olson, Carol Miller, my own lassie, Lindy Franklin. There are others here like Lynette, Kathy, Tricia, that are working hard still, and we thank you. Now, I must admit to you right away, I am not Scottish. And until I met the lassie to my right, my knowledge of Scotland consisted only of bagpipes, haggis, Sean Connery, Sheena Easton, the Loch Ness Monster, and the Bay City Rollers. Not Scottish, you say? No, my family comes from a place about 400 miles from Scotland, the country of Wales, where the equal to sign was invented, where Marconi's first radio transmission occurred between 2 points, where the population of sheep is 4 times greater than the population of humans. No problem getting a date there. And where the little town with the longest name in the world sits, the town of Llanfai Pwch Gingrich Go Get a Gwyn Drog Clan to Silio Go Go Goch. Say that 3 times really fast. So why is this man with the Welsh heritage standing up here in a kilt? Well, it has to do again with the persuasion of the lassie on my right. My knees are cold. When I was asked to do this toast, I admit all I knew of Ladd and Lassie was that Jim Ladd was a DJ in Southern California. Yes. And Lassie was a TV dog. But I've been educated, and now I'm like real smart. So I'm honored to be part of your Burn Supper. In our house, Burn Supper usually means that she started cooking during an episode of Outlander. Not true, she's an excellent cook. So are the other lassies in my family, 3 daughters, 3 granddaughters, and the lassie on my right. So basically I'm Lassie Rich. When Lindy first told me that she had volunteered me to do this toast at the Burn Supper, I thought, awesome. I'm a huge Burns fan. He was funny, charismatic, he told a great story, and his love for Gracie Allen was immeasurable. One of his best quotes was, "Happiness is a good cigar, a good meal, and a good woman, or a bad woman. It depends on how much happiness you can handle." Did you know he lived to be 100 years old and also played God in a movie? What?
I think you're confused. You're talking about George Burns, you're talking about Robert Burns.
Oh, not George?
No. Robert Burns is a famous Scottish poet.
Oh, you
Not
mean?
George Burns, the old comedian.
Oh, you mean Robert Burns, the Art of Ayrshire?
Yes,
The plowman poet,
that's right.
born in 1759?
That's him.
And you think I'm dating myself?
Very much so.
Robert Burns was born 137 years before George Burns, and I'm dating myself? Lindy says I never listened to her. At least I think that's what you said. Okay, so I guess I should just start by reciting my favorite Robbie Burns poem.
Wait, do you have a favorite Robert Burns poem?
I do.
How did you find that one?
I utilize an ancient Scottish tool, hitherto unknown in most parts of the world.
Google.
I Google. Okay. But first I'd like to begin my toast to the lassies by sharing the things I've learned about the fairer sex. That itself being a misnomer, because you lassies sometimes don't play fair. As soon as we think we've got the answer, you change the question. I've also learned that there are certain trick questions you throw at us. Questions like, when you glance at a beautiful woman across the room and your lassie says, "Do you think she's pretty?" The translation is, "Tell me I'm pretty and you get bonus points if you don't look at her again." Or, "What did you say?" The translation is, "I just gave you a get out of jail free card. If you're smart, you'll rethink that stupid thing you just said." And the scariest one of all, and I know, lads, you know what I'm talking about. Does this make me look fat? You know, there's no escape from that bear trap. And of course, there are things you lassies say that mean something totally different. Like when she says, "I'm almost ready," it means, "I'll be ready when I'm ready." Could be 10 minutes, could be an hour, but you better be ready when I'm ready. Or how about this one, lads? "I forgive you," which translated means, "I'll deal with it for now, but I'm going to hold it against you for the rest of your life." And we all know, of course, when she says, "I'm fine," she's anything but fine. Now, those were all observances, and I'm sure Robbie Burns would pipe in right now if he were here, but then he started thinking about their beautiful eyes and how much he loves to coo with them, and, well, we'd be into the weeds then. So despite the funny jokes and digs that we have for our fair lassies, we know you're the smart ones. Who wrote this? We love you, and we couldn't do without you. So I'd like to read this excerpt from a Robert Burns poem that I found very appropriate for this day. It's called "The Rights of Women." While Europe's eye is fixed on mighty things, the fate of empires and the fall of kings, while quacks of state must each produce his clan, and even children lisp the rights of man, amid this mighty fuss, just let me mention, the rights of women merit some attention. First, in the sexes' intermixed connection, one sacred right of women is protection. The tender flower that lifts its head elate, helpless must fall before the blasts of fate. Sunk on the earth, defaced its lovely form, unless your shelter ward the impending storm. Our second right, but needless here is caution, to keep that right and violates the fashion. Each man of sense has it so full before him, he'd die before he'd wrong it, 'tis decorum. There was indeed in far less polished days a time when rough, rude men had naughty ways. Would swagger, swear, get drunk, kick up a riot? Nay, even thus invade a lady's quiet. Now thank our stars those Gothic times are fled. Wow. Now well-bred men, and you are all well-bred, let majesty your first attention summon. Ah, Sa-ira, the majesty of woman. So while struggling to come up with a speech for this gathering and wanting to do my lassie Lindy proud, I found myself taking the task into my sleep. I awoke laughing one morning, having written this, seriously, in a dream. And I'd like to share it with you now. There we go. In closing, I'd just like to read you a verse. I wrote it last night. I did not rehearse. Here's to all you charming lassies, short, tall, petite, or double-wide chassis. I raise my glass to you, Sa-ira, good health and happiness. Slanjava. Yeah.
And now that is appropriate, the response from the lasses. Lindy Franklin, please.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes. Great. Hello, the house.
No.
Thank you, Doug, for the introduction, and thank you, Nino, for that humorous, partially complimentary toast to us lassies. When Susan Craig Winsberg first asked me if Nino and I might want to do these toasts last year, I pretty much replied with a giant no and ran away in horror. But I had a year to think about it, and I realized it could be a good laugh. After all, my 3-time grandfather and his father were both named Robert Burns. It's almost an obligation at this point. I have to admit, I'm not that familiar with Robert Burns' work. My only real exposure are the 3 Burns suppers I've attended in the past. So I did some research and found some quite shocking stuff, but more on that later. So I do feel I'm qualified to talk about men and all their quirks and foibles. You know, lovely traits like smelly towels. Have you ever noticed that? That scratching in their nether regions that they do, are always asking you to put their stuff in your purse because they're too embarrassed to carry a man bag, and then never use the stuff you've been carrying around in your purse, like that gigantic iPad or the heavy camera he had to bring. Yeah, I've known a few men in my life, pretty much every type of laddie. Arrogant ones, smarmy ones, whom I immediately rejected, of course, sparklingly humorous ones, and some really romantic ones too. This one here, Nino, who is my boyfriend, he's the funniest, cleverest, and most romantic of them all. Still, we lassies know how you men are. You're like coolers. Load you with beer and we can take you anywhere. Men are like a Facebook account. You need one, but you're not sure why. Now what about your man that won't exercise? The one you have to force to do his sit-ups? Lassies, just put the TV remote between his toes. But maybe I shouldn't be so hard on the lads and try and point out some of their finer characteristics that we all appreciate. Seem to be at a loss for words. I say our honored poet tonight was really not that different from one of you modern lads. Take Burns' romantic poems, for instance, specifically those wooing any young lassie. And, by the way, you have a poem about you if your name was Anna, Allison, Katie, Mary, Jeannie, Cloris, Clorinda, Nancy, Nell, Molly, Polly, Peggy, Bessie, Jessie, Eliza, Maria, Delia, and, rather weirdly, Davies. That smooth talking poetry was the Tinder of his day, or the Match.com of the 18th century. Same outcome. Poor Ravi, though. It seems all he had to do was feel the urge to write a poem about some woman, and a child would appear shortly afterward. Sheesh, 12 children. Some say maybe even up to 18 children by at least 4 different women. I wonder if anyone ever called him Rabbit instead of Rabby. What with a moniker like the Plowman Poet, we all know what he was really plowing. One lassie I heard at another Burns supper put it well. Though a hard toiling farmer, he never neglected to chase the lassies that were unprotected. His menial chores with plow and hoe gave him no pleasure down below. So I'm Googling, I'm reading, I'm listening to as much as I can about Ravi. I stumble onto Eddie Reader singing a really great tune. And I'm no singer, but I'm just going to sing it a little because it's really cool. Gimme la bros, bros, gimme la bros, and butter, and gimme la bros, bros, a string. He wanted his supper, and Jenny sits up the loft. Johnny was glad to be out. There came a wind out the west, made all the windows to clatter. And gimme la bros, bros, gimme la bros, and butter, and gimme la bros, bros, a string. He wanted his supper. That was a dainty dish. Goose is hollow within the side, would make you blush, but all the fun is to finish. And gimme la bros, bros, gimme la bros, and butter, and gimme la bros, bros. That's called Bros and Butter. That's part of it. I love that tune. Both the melody and the rhythm. You know what bros is? Apparently, in the real world, It's some kind of uncooked oatmeal concoction. But no, sir, not in Rabbi Burns' world. It has nothing whatsoever to do with oatmeal. I found that out. The whole damn song is in code and is dirty as heck. Yeah, you laddies. You know, Robert Burns kept those body songs, and there are a lot of them, locked in a drawer. Sound familiar? They didn't have computer porn or Maxim back then, so you make the connection. And by the way, he would never have been exposed or accused of anything by the hashtag #MeToo movement. He was too much of a rock star, like Mick Jagger, leaving a string of lovelies all over the country and too well loved by the Lassies. So it seems he wasn't just a horny rabbit. He celebrated women, despite what Liz Lockhead says, and the glorious good times they had together. Remember the rights of women, as Nino read a bit from earlier. He wanted protection, caution, and admiration for women and called them majestic. And there's Green Grow the Rashes. Old Nature swears the lovely dears, her noblest work she classes O. Apprentice hand she tried on man, and then she made the lasses O. There's such tenderness in the lines, but dear as is thy form to me, still dearer is thy mind. From It Is Na, Jean, Thy Bonny Face. So to both honor and tease you laddies tonight, I want to have a little sing-along. The verse may be different since I just rewrote it, but the chorus is the same one you know and love, hopefully, or if not, you'll catch on really fast. Yeah, no, I just need to know what note to start on. What? 'Twas on a Monday evening, right early in the year, that Charlie came into our club, the young Chevalier. Oh, Charlie's my darling, my darling, my darling. Charlie's my darling, the young Chevalier. As he was walking in the door, the Irish class let out, and there he spied a lass and probably bought a Guinness stout. Oh, Charlie's my darling, my darling, my darling. Charlie's my darling, the young Chevalier. Now Charlie was a brave one, 'cause a looker he was not, but swagger did increase with every Guinness that he bought. Oh, Charlie's my darling, my darling, my darling. Charlie's my darling, the young Chevalier. As night became the morrow and the lights did finally dim, Charlie staggered home to bed, the bonny lass with him. Oh, Charlie's my darling, my darling, my darling. Charlie's my darling, the young Chevalier. Years gone by, and when he's asked the older Chevalier, what brought you two together, he says,
Must have been the beer!
oh, Charlie's my darling, my darling, my darling. Charlie's my darling, the young Chevalier. So with that, if you'll raise your glasses, I would like to give a big slàinte to the Laddies. Slàinte, Laddies.
That was amazing.